Steve Reich. Origins of Steve Reich.
Steve Reich is an American composer known for his contribution to the development of minimal music. He was born October 3, 1936, in New York City. At the age of 14 he began to study music in earnest, after hearing music from the Baroque period and earlier, as well as music of the 20th century. Reich studied drums with Roland Koloff in order to play jazz. While attending Cornell University, he minored in music and graduated in 1957 with a BA in philosophy.
His work through the years.
In the 1960s, Reich's early forays into composition involved experimentation with 12-tone composition, but he found the rhythmic aspects of the number 12 more interesting than the pitch aspects. Reich also composed film soundtracks for Plastic Haircut, 1963, Oh Damn Watermelons, 1965, and Thick Pucker, 1965, three films by Robert Nelson. From his African experience, as well as A.M. Jones's studies in African music about the music of the Yu people, Reich drew inspiration for his 90-minute piece Drumming, which he composed shortly after his return. Composed for a 9-piece percussion ensemble with female voices and piccolo, Drumming marked the beginning of a new stage in his career, for around this time he formed his ensemble, Steve Reich and Musicians, and increasingly concentrated on composition and performance with them. Steve Reich and Musicians, which was to be the solo ensemble to interpret his works for many years, still remains active with many of its original members.
In 1974 Reich published the book Writings About Music, containing essays on his philosophy, aesthetics, and musical projects written between 1963 and 1974. An updated and much more extensive collection, Writings on Music, 1965 to 2000, was published in 2002. Reich's work took on a darker character in the 1980s with the introduction of historical themes as well as themes from his Jewish heritage. Tehillim, 1981, Hebrew for Songs, is the first of Reich's works to draw explicitly on his Jewish background. The work is in 4 parts, and is scored for an ensemble of 4 women's voices, 1 high soprano, 2 lyric sopranos and 1 alto, piccolo, flute, oboe, English horn, 2 clarinets, 6 percussion, playing small-tune tambourines without jingles, clapping, maracas, marimba, vibraphone and crotales, 2 electronic organs, 2 violins, viola, cello and double bass, with amplified voices, strings, and wind.
Reich created different trains in 1988, for string quartet and tape, uses recorded speech, as in his earlier works, but this time as a melodic rather than a rhythmic element. In different trains, Reich compares and contrasts his childhood memories of his train journeys between New York and California in 1939 to 1941 with the very different trains being used to transport contemporaneous European children to their deaths under Nazi rule. In 1993, Reich collaborated with his wife, the video artist Beryl Corto, on an opera, The Cave, which explores the roots of Judaism, Christianity and Islam through the words of Israelis, Palestinians, and Americans, echoed musically by the ensemble. The work, for percussion, voices, and strings, is a musical documentary, named for the Cave of Machpelah in Hebron, where a mosque now stands and Abraham is said to have been buried.
People Reich has influenced.
The American composer and critic Kyle Genn has said that Reich may be considered, by general acclamation, America's greatest living composer. Reich's style of composition has influenced many other composers and musical groups, including John Adams, the progressive rock band King Crimson, the New Age guitarist Michael Hedges, the art pop and electronic musician Brian Eno, the experimental art/music group The Residents, the electronic group Underworld, the composers associated with the Bang on a Can festivals and numerous indie rock musicians including songwriters Sufjan Stevens and Matthew Healy of the 1975, and instrumental ensembles Tortoise, The Mercury Program, and Godspeed You! Black Emperor.
My personal thought? Steve Reich. From what I listen to and the stories that I read about him, it seems like this dude was destined to be a great musician. The time he dedicated to his craft and the thoughts and ideas he came up with is a formula for greatness.